All right, what's going on, guys? So, as the title says, I'm just showing you how you can make a Gen 5 Glock 19 slide fit on a Gen 3 frame. Now, as we all know, typically Gen 5 slides aren't compatible with Gen 3 frames. Reason being, typically the hole right here where the recoil spring and the guide rod go into are the hole is larger on the Gen 5s than they are the Gen 3s. So all I did to make sure that I can fit this on here is, number one, the first thing that matters is you have to have a Gen 3 style recoil spring and guide rod, which this is another Gen 5 slide as well. This is another Gen 5 slide. Thing in here are Gen 5 parts, even the barrel, all of that of recoil spring and guide rod. Gen 5 slide with the Gen 3 frame, it's not going to fit. This right here is a non-modified Gen 3 frame. This right here, not modified versus modified right there. So you can see the differences between the two. Notice how this hole is bigger compared to this one right here. And then if you look in here, I also had to shave down a lot of this space right here and down here. So what matters the most is you need to shave down this area right here around where this part of the slide would go, where the recoil spring and guide rod fit into. You need to shave that down, and then you need to shave down a little bit off the sides here, off both of the sides, because you basically want it to mimic this. This is a 19X frame, but I'm just showing you as a good example. You basically want it to mimic that, like as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, because this was my very first frame modifying like this to fit the slide, and it's not perfect at all. You could clearly see how imperfect it is, but you could very clearly see how much it was shaved down to make it resemble a Gen 5 frame, essentially. So all you need is to shave this down right here, shave that down, and then shave down right here. This is the main part that matters. I shaved some of this down a little bit too, but that isn't the part that necessarily matters. It's when the slide actually reciprocates back. That's when it starts to drag up against here on this part of the frame. So you want to shave that down. Use a Dremel, use sandpaper, use a file, use whatever tools you have to do so. But literally, that's all you do. And originally, I had thought you needed a Gen 3 backplate to make it fit. But weirdly so, I was actually able to make... let's put that back in there. At the range, when I was testing out this frame, when I was testing out the Gen 3 frame with the Gen 5 slide, you could even see, where is it? Yeah, right there. See, Gen 5, and this is a dagger frame, which dagger frames are Gen 3s. But I originally thought you needed a Gen 3 backplate to make it fit, but at the range today, I was curious to test out this slide as well. So all I did was replace the recoil spring. Oh yeah, you also need the guide rod recoil spring adapter for Gen 5 slides, because you see how much larger that hole is compared to that hole. The Gen 5 slides are much larger than the Gen 3 slides as far as where the guide rod or recoil spring go. So what you need, which I'll include a screenshot of what brand I got and everything. There's multiple brands, but this one seemed to work perfectly fine. You just place it in there. On the inside of the slide, you place it in there, see? So it fits in there no problem. And then you fit in the guide rod recoil spring, and it goes on there no problem. See? Now, like I was saying earlier, when I was at the range today to test this out, to test out the setup to make sure it's a viable setup and that it works, I was curious to see if my other Gen 5 slide will work on it as well. This one's a custom slide I had made, and I was very curious to see if this one would work. And in this clip, you could see that it does, which it's really strange because yes, at the range, all I did was switch the recoil spring guide rod and the adapter from this slide to this slide, which I will show you. All I did was switch it to this slide and then remounted it. And again, I want to reiterate, this is a Gen 5 backplate for this slide, as opposed to this one, which is a Gen 3 backplate. This one's a Gen 3, this one's a Gen 5 backplate. But watch, this one's still gonna fit on here perfectly fine. See, and it fits perfectly fine. Again, it blows my mind, and it cycles perfectly fine. You get your slide lock, slide release, no problem. Trigger pull works. Reset, trigger pull. And you can even see right here, I'm going to use a live mag to show you how it cycles. But literally, you can see it cycled around right there.
Holy shit.
And then we will cycle it. Notice it works every time. And even in the footage that I took earlier at the range, she works perfectly fine. So again, I'm going to reiterate. Let's unload that mag right there. Again, I'm going to reiterate. All you need to do to make a Gen 3 frame fit a Gen 5 slide, all you need to do is, again, shave this down. Shave that down. Shave this part down. Shave off the little corners right here. You want to shave that off a little bit, round it out, smooth it out. And then after that, you need a Gen 3 style recoil spring and guide rod, as well as the adapter that the guide rod fits into for the Gen 5 slides. That's all you need to do. And literally, you could see in the video, in the clip I have, she works perfectly fine. She works just as well as if it's a factory. So it's just a little bit of Dremel work on your end, but that's literally all it takes. All right.